Hello, everybody. So I am back with Pastor Gary today, and today we also have Pastor Beth here. I'm so excited about that.
Me too.
And we're going to talk a little bit about how to cultivate a kingdom marriage. So I want to open that up to you guys. What does that mean to you? What does it look like to have a kingdom marriage?
Why don't you go first?
Oh, me first?
Yeah, you first.
All right, well, I think about 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7, and it talks about being heirs together of the grace of life, that our prayers wouldn't be hindered. But I think it paints such a beautiful picture of being heirs together of the grace of life. What a kingdom-based marriage looks like, that there's no striving, that there's no trying to figure out who's the boss, who's in charge. And sometimes I see that it's a struggle for people. And you know, the Bible talks about it a lot, because Adam and Eve, it really talks about that there would be a struggle for who would be in charge.
It does.
And you see it in marriages all around.
As a matter of fact, Paul said, at one point he's talking about being single, he said, I wish you would all be single, because if you marry, you have all these other concerns, and if you get married, there's going to be trouble. He basically said that. I'm paraphrasing a bit, but he basically said, if you get married, you're going to have some trouble. Because the thing is that whenever you get two people together, they're going to have some differences of opinion, they're going to have differences in their personalities and how they think and how they do things. And so it's a matter of that coming together. And so we find, and we talk oftentimes when we're talking about marriage, how it's like sandpaper sometimes, but it's polishing you. And so, of course, sandpaper and polishing doesn't feel good at the moment. In the end, it makes you look better. But in the beginning, it takes time to get that polish on, because there's going to be pokey parts of me that in my personality that just kind of rub in the wrong spot in her personality. And of course, she's perfect. There's no awkward parts of her personality. But the fact of the matter is we make each other better. And so in a kingdom marriage, you're asking about kingdom marriage. The scripture's pretty clear that there's a head and all of that, and submission, and it talks about wives submitting to their husbands and all of that. But the thing that's often missed in that is the fact that we're actually supposed to submit one to another.
Mm-hmm. That's the first verse of that passage, actually.
It is the first verse of that passage, and we find that you submit one to another, and then he goes on telling wives to submit to their husbands. It tells husbands to live like Christ did, laying our lives down. So I have to submit my own will. I have to submit my own desires and all of those things, oftentimes, and lay my life down for her sake. So mutual submission has to be at the very beginning of kingdom marriage.
Right, and it's fear then that on both sides that causes us to either for the man not to lay his life down for his wife, or for the wife not to submit to her husband, because it's that fear. The enemy tries to bring fear into the middle of our relationship, that something's not going to work out the way. I'm not going to get what I need to get out of the relationship. I'm not going to be able to do what the Lord's asked me to do, or it comes out in all the little ways too. Who controls the thermostat?
Absolutely.
How the money flows, what we talk about, all of that. So it comes out in a variety of physical ways, but it all comes down to...
Well, and sometimes we enter into these relationships with the wrong attitude right from the beginning. What am I going to get out of this?
Oh, totally.
One of the difficulties that you find in counseling and marriages is that people they stop and they say, but if I don't think about my own needs, then I'm not going to get anything out of it. I've got to protect myself in the middle of this. And what we need is for both people to come into that marriage, the husband and the wife, to stop and to say, you know what? I'm here to give what I can give. I'm here to sow into this thing. And you can get into all kinds of things then, because if it's going to be a kingdom marriage, you've got to have faith, you've got to have all those things. So you're going to be sowing the word, you're going to be sowing faith, you're going to be doing, but these are longer conversations maybe.
So the better givers we are toward each other,
Absolutely.
the better marriage that we have.
Absolutely.
and even the giving of love,
Yeah.
because we're supposed to sow love. We're supposed to be the ones, each of us individually should be the first one to speak in love, to respond in love. And that sowing of love, then you reap a harvest of love. We often talk about goodwill toward each other.
It's huge.
And so, when I talk about goodwill toward my husband, then, so I look at our marriage with an underlying attitude that he loves me and that he's out for my good.
Yeah.
And that he's not out to do me harm.
Mhm.
And so when I look at him that way, then when he says something that I don't understand, or that I might even find hurtful or difficult, but when I look and say,
I can't
well,
believe I would ever do that.
I know, right? It doesn't happen. But when I look at him then through that goodwill, then it doesn't matter because, well, I mean, those words still matter, but I look at it and I say, well, he said something, but I know that his heart toward me is that he loves me.
Thank God.
So while I don't
Thank
understand,
God. That's it.
I don't understand those words, I don't understand, but then I can approach him about it from an attitude of love, where I can say then, when you said that, it hurt me, but I know that you love me, so I know you didn't intend to hurt me, but can we talk about this thing that you did or this thing that you said? And then he can do the same back toward me. If he's got that same attitude of
Yeah.
goodwill toward me, then we're always thinking the best about each other. And it takes
That's-
the sting out of a lot of,
That's totally Corinthians 13, where we always call it the love chapter, and he says that love, or I think the old, what's the old
Charity.
King James? Charity or love. It thinks the best of the other person. It's always it won't believe the worst. It only believes the best. And that's how I've got to approach this thing. I love her, and so I only believe the best is coming out of her. And we know that people make mistakes.
thank goodness, because sometimes my words, they don't come out exactly like I intended them. They sounded really good in my head, but when I voice them, then it's like, yeah, I didn't mean that exactly the way it came out.
So
So,
that happens to all of us, though. It happens to all of us.
but thank goodness for the goodwill.
Thank God for that.
And that seems like a principle that would be beneficial in all of our relationships with people.
It is.
Totally.
It is. Whether you're talking about your kids, whether you're talking about your boss or a coworker, a neighbor, or whatever, if you can approach the thing with that goodwill that says, I trust that you meant the best, even if you didn't do the best or say the best. I trust that it wasn't your heart to be malicious. It's a place to start anyway.
Well, those are some great keys. Thank you guys so much. And thank you guys for watching,
You're
and
welcome.
we'll see you next time.